Modularity is like a really big deal in Star Citizen. It's something that we have been waiting for a about as long as the game has existed. This is something that they've talked about many times, and they've used it kind of as a sales tactic at times, so it rubs people the wrong way. You saw that with the Galaxy. The Galaxy was a really interesting ship. A lot of people wanted it for the modularity, despite modularity still not coming out with the ships they've talked about. And if I can find it here, we can see the last time they sort of mentioned it with the Retaliator. Okay, here we go. This is at least where they mention it. Let's listen to this.
All right, and then I'm going to assume it's the same answer for like the underside pods.
Yeah, still planned. They are, those ones are actually technically blocked, but that's the same tech blocker as we have with the Retaliator modules. So when we have that, Retaliator modules will probably be the first thing that come online using it, and then we can go back through the catalog of ships that have that same sort of modular room functionality and implement that.
Okay, right. So that's kind of one of the, they do this a lot where they talk about problems they have with one thing and how that can be affecting something else, or once they figure one thing out, it can help them get another thing done. Yeah, okay. So here's another part where they were kind of talking about this. This is 2020 remember. So they've been kind of working towards this for a little while and just trying to figure out how to make it all happen. This is also the last time we got a full update on the Retaliator.
Then the Gladiator Saber has all the same criteria of work. So looking at the cockpit, looking at the components, adding all the things, checking everything's symmetric. But because it's got an interior, then there's additional tasks added. So the same work we do for the cockpit of the pilot has to be done for the turrets. The components that you can physically take out of the ship, can you physically take them out of the ship? Do the doors need to be wider, etc.? Now you've made the doors wider, do they still fit in the ship when they open? And we also took the time to look at the central room and thought, can we improve on this? We decided to remove the top and bottom docking collars and go for a side.
Now, we don't have this Retaliator in game, right? Like, they've shown us this rework, but I don't think it's in game yet. Somebody confirm.
Airlock, which also helps for docking because that's just a natural walking on transition. And then because we'd lost a lift on that side, we then realized we had to make the lift on the other side slightly larger to accommodate essentially 2 lifts worth of people. So then you've now just got 1 lift on that side of the ship to get in and a docking collar on the other side to get in. The thing that the Retaliator has is the customizable room modules, and there's a cargo module front and back, a dropship module at the front.
See, so art-wise, these modules are, at least were, pretty close to complete 2 years ago. Functionality-wise, they've got a cargo compartment, a compartment to sit in, and compartments for cargo. None of these are new gameplay features, so they don't need to develop new technology for them. Really, it seems like the only thing these are dependent on are actual modularity functionality working.
So when modularity comes on as a swappable item, they are good to go.
Yeah. So like you just said, when modularity comes online, there will be a swappable item. So they are ready. They're just waiting for that feature. So why wouldn't we get the Retaliator? Or why would they introduce the Retaliator now if modularity wasn't ready when they've been working on it for so long?
Where we're at with the first gold standard ships, obviously going to go through all the ships, but we are going to focus on the ones that feature heavily in Squadron 42 first. And then,
like, I could see them doing the gold standard of the Retaliator itself. It's just, it would be very, very strange to put the Retaliator on this ship with a bunch of concepts that are hyped, because you know this list, there's no way this list is all the ships we're getting next year. This is just the ships they want to hype us about. Why would they want to hype us about a Retaliator rework? We're also getting a Freelancer rework. We're also probably getting a couple other gold standard ships because Squadron 42 calls for them. So I just don't really see why we would have the Retaliator on here unless they were trying to hint at more. But at the same time, you know, I'm not going to, let's not run away with the idea that modularity is for sure coming. That's just a possibility, I think. Yeah, they usually answer some good stuff in Invictus. Let's see. Progress on modularity. Cool. Perfect.
Has there been any progress on modularity since it was last talked about?
Yes. good news at last.
Good news.
Oh, well, we'll be the
Good
judge of
news.
that. We'll be the judge of that.
So,
You ready, chat?
you ready,
Eyes on the
chat?
track, guys. Come on.
So with the development of the whole C, we've pretty much figured out the last hurdle. And in fact, Chris is responsible for the test that I got him to do for it, where we can have object containers, which is the interior collection of assets, loaded as an item, loaded onto the ship, because that's how the rear of the whole C is attached to the ship and moves with it. What had stopped us technically going any further with this was items inside those object containers couldn't talk to the vehicle it was connected to.
Right.
So the example of the Retaliator, the torpedo droppy arms, they're actually part of the exterior of the ship currently because that's the only way they can work. So if we allowed you to swap the modules, no matter what module you had, there'd be a pair of torpedo arms dangling through the middle of it. Chris did a test where he attached a load of missile racks and torpedoes to the inside of the back of the hull C, which is not going to ship with it.
Wait, you're saying we're not
Unless we
having a
accidentally
torpedo
did it.
hull C?
Yeah.
There is a shelf that says "Do not submit" in very large letters.
And the pilot had full control of that, and they could fire them. So after the whole C ships and we found any more quirks with that setup, we're in a position where, to my knowledge, touch wood, technically there's nothing stopping us doing modularity now. That was the last big hurdle.
All right.
There's nothing technically stopping us from doing it, but there's also priorities and
might be
things, and
logistics.
building a team.
Nothing technically stopping us.
So we literally have John Cruz saying, why would we get the Retaliator without modularity? Guys, I honestly, at this point, I think it would be very, very weird for them to come on camera and say, hey, all these problems I've been talking about for years for modularity, they don't exist anymore. We're good. There's nothing holding us back from modularity. And then they would come out 5 months later and tease the ship that they've always said is coming with modularity and not have it include modularity. Especially when, once again, all the other ships on this list don't exist yet. Right? None of these ships exist except for this one. Somebody make it make sense. I really wouldn't be pursuing this as just a hype thing. I would just like this to make sense to somebody play the devil's advocate so I don't run away with this idea. It really feels like they're pointing towards it being a thing really soon. They were talking about the Galaxy too. They talked about bringing that in game. They definitely need it working for the Galaxy as well, but that's coming after the Polaris, so probably not for a couple of years. And they've had the gold standard ready for this ship, and now they've had modularity ready for this ship, and now they're putting it on this list. I think that kind of points to it. It's not confirmed, but, we can speculate. We'll add it to the video for next year and probably be wrong about it. Either way, modularity.